Do you feel like you could do this podcast without me at this point?
Well, that's what Merlin said. Merlin said, "Oh, you could just create an avatar with Lee." I said, "I wouldn't even do that." I don't want to waste good AI on a.
Ooh, right here.
Welcome to the show, where air takes the floor. Lee and Rich on the mic.
Welcome to the AI Guys podcast, where we make artificial intelligence easy to understand for everyone. I'm your host, Lee Dixon, and as always, I'm joined by self-proclaimed SaaS killer, Rich Swire.
That was a huge welcome. That was big.
I'm very excited to be here with you today.
I hear you. I see this. It's good to be on the show. It's good to be on the show, Lee.
We're ringing the bell. SaaS is dead, right? Is that the whole spiel now?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good topic to talk about because, obviously we're in the SaaS business, I've been almost my entire life. And it's really interesting to hear people actually even in the business, right, are starting to say things that resemble that. Maybe not as definite as that, but they obviously see the writing on the wall. Mm-hmm. But even just like the CEO of Microsoft, like last week, said that he sees a clear end to kind of how it works today, Yeah. So even if you're the most conservative about what AI is doing in the world of software, you would probably agree with the statement that it is certainly going to have impact on the business, whether it means that they have to reimagine how their business model, right? Because seat licensing obviously is the biggest area where there could be serious change. And of course, that affects bottom line. And then if you're the most aggressive on the AI side, you're really looking at it going, wow, today we're at early stages of AI, right? We're only a year or two into like serious generative AI development where there's real money going into building these things. And, we're building software, right? We're building applications through prompts, which is kind of insane to think about.
It really is.
Fast forward 2-3 years, at the rate that we're seeing these models get better and better, and the more it's being trained on existing software code, I just don't see a future where building out a pretty substantial application might take a lot less engineers. Maybe a different kind of engineer, maybe more prompt engineers. Maybe it's a series of...
Yeah, taking it from concept to creation, though, is going to be a lot faster.
Right. And this is honestly probably an entrepreneur's dream, right? So, I've been involved with entrepreneurs all my life, and I'm one, and obviously been involved.
I pretend to be one, so yeah.
Lee's a faux entrepreneur. But when you really talk to people who are entrepreneurial but not technical, but they have a technical slanted idea, they always feel trapped because there's not a really large number of great engineer/architects in the software world that are just kind of hanging out with nothing to do, right? They're all working for the big guys.
They get scooped up quick.
Yeah, exactly. So if you have an amazing idea, let's say you're an expert in whatever, it doesn't really matter what business it is. Let's say you want to build an app, the famous, meme of like, oh, I got an app idea. Mm-hmm. Well, that usually stops there, right? Like if I have an app idea, I'm at a party, I'm like, I got this idea for an app. It's called whatever, and it does this. And people kind of go, oh yeah, actually, that's pretty cool. But of course, if it costs $50, $100, $150,000 to build that app, it just dies, right then and there. But now you can actually go in and basically say, hey, I'm going to build an app that does this and this and this, In fact, actually, you know what? We should probably, let me see if I can actually pull something up and do this. We've never done this, by the way. This is just
real-time experimentation on the pod.
Right now, Merlin is probably freaking out.
Our producer is like, God.
But I think it's a good idea to think about how, like, while we're playing around, I'll screen share this idea.
He says, let's go.
Now we're doing our own kind of app development. Like
for those on the podcast only, this is your chance to come find us on YouTube because we're going to show you something.
Yeah, exactly. No, when we build out stuff for Rhea, like our version 2 of our product, our platform, a lot of it was generated by AI, but it was generated through kind of a core development, like a standard development process. Just doing, sprints and Scrum but we're using AI to kind of complement and build out some of the code and obviously some of the documentation.
Compress that timeline
completely
down.
Different. But then I ran across, this is just one example. There's multiple companies like this. So
Share it
obviously,
away.
and these guys aren't a sponsor, so we haven't sold out, but
For those that are listening, this is a group called Lovable.
Yeah, exactly. Lovable. So I'm at Lovable.dev, and I just ran across this because I was doing a presentation earlier this week at a conference. But let's just do it. Like, we're at a party, and you have an app idea. So let's say, like, I want to build an app that lets a user, because we don't want to just make it just for
Fair.
Lee.
Yeah.
So
right.
what do you want to do, Lee, with your life? Let's say track. How about this? Track how many times their kids do something positive or negative, and call it the kid stress.
Oh, jeez.
This hits home. This hits home. You got to
right. With a 5-year-old, 100%.
Yeah. So, but I think this is the most important component of this. So right now what's happening is this thing's going to town, right? It's just taking my literally 20-word prompt. I gave it an idea of what it could do. It already loves the idea, by the way, which is a good sign. And now it's generating code. And obviously for those who can't see it, right now it's just building out.
Hop over and search for the AI guys on YouTube.
That too.
Yeah, but what's interesting about an app, like a program like this, right, is for those people that might not be as technologically inclined, like, you have the ability to treat it like a GPT where you're engaging and speaking to the operator or the creator. And then, similar to why I think a lot of people like the research and the deep research pieces in certain models now, is they can see it working instead of just it happening. And then it's like, by the way, here's the document that I built for you. Right. So seeing how it actually is going through it and going into like, hey, we're going to create the action button component now, and like breaking it down, like super visual. I really love the UI on something like this. Yeah.
So, I mean, this is your classic chat. It looks kind of like ChatGPT. On the left side, I'm prompting it to do certain things. It's still generating code. And once it gets done through the basics, which is, it's still going. So the good news is that you can actually have a podcast and write code at the same time.
Yeah.
But right now it's building out the HTML interface, and developers will like it because you can actually interface it, change the code if you want to. It pushes it automatically to your GitHub account. So obviously you can share it and have other people contribute. But what you'll find yourself doing is you'll find yourself kind of continue to refine and build it using the prompting right on the left side.
Yeah.
So like, it's actually pretty cool. Like, that's pretty nuts that it came up with this.
Yeah, so it spins up a little URL like preview area where it says kid stress tester, track positive and negative behaviors to monitor stress levels. And it gives you some pluses and minuses on both positive and negative behaviors. And it can kind of let you know if that's increasing current stress levels. So crank that negative behavior rich like 10.
So let's go with this.
Not to say Amelia's a bad kid, but I'm just curious.
Well, right now this is all visual stuff right now.
Exactly.
So the next question you would ask as a developer is, hey, I need to create a database.
Yeah, maybe even some type of algo that's going to start, saying my kid is actually super easygoing and normally doesn't have a problem. So like, it might take more negative behaviors to push that stress level up than someone who's like, my kid's super high strung all the time anyways. So less negative behaviors might actually increase that number faster. Yeah.
So right now it's just visual, right? I'm just pumping it up, but you're not seeing the stress level change or anything like that. But what I did is I was able to connect to a database, which is called Supabase in this case. Yeah. It's now saying I'm connected to it. Right. And what's another cool thing about it is it always throws out errors, but then when you see an error, you just say, "Hey, fix it." And so it goes in the error log, tells you where the error is. So it actually is very much like development. Like, every time, if you're a developer out there and you're kind of you're kind of toggling between your code and you hit an error, you try to debug. That's half our life, is maybe more than that. 80% of our life is debugging, and then you rebuild it. And this works just like that. So it's not like you hit a roadblock. But what's really cool about it is you can actually build out a database too. So I can say something like, now I'm going to do my second prompt and say, I want to store the ratings in a database so I can track daily stress. So I'll say, like, create a table to store this information, right?
So, Rich, once you run this prompt and it's doing some stuff, I want to kind of talk a little bit about, how this ties back into the software as a service world, right? So, of course, coders are going to be, all across the board, no matter what the products are. But what I think is interesting here, and I think this was kind of where you're going with tying it back to the entrepreneurial world, is normally one of the hardest parts of, hey, maybe I do have the motivation to do it, and I've got someone who wants to be my dev side, and like now I want to create this app, is now having to put the pieces of software into your stack that are allowing you to create that experience and do all of these things. And this is a part now that essentially removes maybe some of the SaaS that normally you'd go out and spend money on, when you can say, well, is that something that I could build and have it inside of this piece natively? Like, so I don't have to spend money on all of these different SaaS products, because that's where, as a startup, you get into a lot of trouble typically.
Yeah. So to complete my thought, right? So fundamentally, there was always a moat that existed that divided up a very large number of people that have really great ideas and a different viewpoint on the world to what actually made it into the people who actually launched these companies and these software products. Yeah. And call it luck. It's no different. Like it's like the American Idol, right? You have thousands of people that they think they can sing, and many probably could, but they can never find their way into some sort of studio and get an album deal. So
sure,
you put it out there in American Idol, and suddenly you find these amazing singers.
Lightning in a bottle, yeah.
So it's no different here. What you're dealing with is you're able to, as a singular entrepreneur with an idea with zero tech experience, launch what I would call at a minimum a prototype, maybe even a minimal viable product. And so let's take that as the starting point. Now you're basically saying there's people out there with industry expertise, maybe even more industry expertise than people who founded some of these core solutions out there. Like, the software as a service companies that are out there either usually are generalistic, like HubSpots and Salesforces of the world, or they're very vertical, like the world we come from, right? That are very specific to like whatever vertical business they're in. Most of the vertical businesses strive off of industry expertise, right? You couldn't build an auto dealership software or a hotel management software unless you know that business, right? But everybody can kind of imagine what a HubSpot would look like, right? It's very
sure.
It's very common, right? Like, okay, leads,
some type of management system, just
not
on
that
the
complicated
basic knowledge. Yeah.
So I think when you start kind of extrapolating and looking at that vector and following that pathway of thought, suddenly you open up the world to a lot of people creating some really cool prototypes, which then might make it to the point where they go, all right, this is a really good idea. This is a completely unique way of looking at the world, specifically because maybe it came from a person who actually has better industry expertise than what's out there, right? And it also probably comes from somebody who has pain. And so if we understand the best ideas come from a problem that needs to be solved, and suddenly this person solves it, right? And now they have the ability to show it. Oh, here's the app I built, using AI. And now it gives that fuel to the fire to then now build something that might be more credible. Now, at some point, yes, AI can probably do 60% of 70%, 80%. Eventually, it might be able to do a big chunk of the product development. However, it still requires people who understand product development, right? Just because of the fact that I prompted it, just the fact that I said, I need you to create a database that does this and this and this, and for me to oversee that, it still needs technical expertise, right? So, but a lot less than you used to. And so when you think about SaaS and you think about the future, I think there's two schools of thought, right? One school of thought is that a lot of the SaaS companies, and maybe many of them, have a lot of older software, right? They have a lot of technical debt, right? They built this stuff on old systems or old languages, and it's just been too much heavy lifting to get it to modernize. And maybe they modernized the UI, but the back end is still clunky, right? So when you think about the evolution of SaaS and whether these SaaS companies can embrace AI at the same time and evolve, there's certainly probably a majority of the money is on that, right? Like, okay, these guys already exist. They already have customers. They're already providing solutions. Certainly, they're not stupid enough not to evolve and embrace AI fully. But I would argue that it is a different challenge because they have to either abandon or evolve their business model, which would mean eating their young, right? It would mean like they would sacrifice potential revenue, or they would, on the side of their current legacy software, start building stuff with an AI first mentality, which would probably be the better route of going.
But that's also admitting defeat in a way. And what we have learned in the SaaS world is a lot of this legacy hierarchy that's been built is almost completely resistant. Like they know that AI is coming, but they're going to refuse. They're going to sit on the Titanic until it's gone under.
Exactly, and so. Yeah, and also these are, and for the bigger guys, they might be too slow to move, right? They're not as aggressive, right? And also you have 1,000, 2,000, 8,000 developers, depending on how big you are, from Google to HubSpot or whatever it might be,
sure,
that are also kind of, we've seen this even when we're inside of companies talking about building agentic workforces. There is this tension, right? Of, oh, is this thing going to, how do I evolve my job to embrace this? Even if everybody in the room was told, hey, listen, this is not about human replacement. This is about augmenting. This is about creating superpowers. This is about
bringing our product to the forefront.
But people are still nervous about that because, okay, because it's still new, right? It's like, how does AI affect my job? Well, if you're a developer, you're either on the side of this is awesome because I can now basically do my job with a prompt and I can submit code and I'll oversee it. I'll kind of become more of a managerial guy. But what used to take me a whole day to spin up code, it now takes me 20 minutes and I can just review it, make some minor changes, and then push it up to the code base and be like, hey guys, I'm going to go to the beach. That I think that honestly is probably going to be the next year to 2 years. Developers are loving this. And they don't want the secret to get out. But at the same time, in the back of their mind, they're like, okay, wait a minute. This might affect my job. This might be like, or somebody within my department, maybe once the company figures out that I'm doing this, that could be like, well, why do we need to be paying you, 150, 200 grand?
Someone that's been using it as a code assistant for the last year to 2 years that now sees things like Lovable gaining traction or like Replit or a few others, right, is probably in their head being like, son of a bitch. Like here it comes to take my job again. Just new iterations of very similar problems.
So now think about that. Now you think about, here's the irony of that. Now you're thinking about an exodus, or you have these people thinking, now you have all these developers going, all right, well, if the writing's on the wall that I'm out of here and I'm going to be dismissed, well, guess what their next path is going to be? Because they, especially the ones that have already discovered how powerful AI is, they're already working on something on the side. So right now, just imagine, for a moment, how many.
Close your eyes. Unless you're driving, don't do
how
that.
Many, it's a non-zero number. How many Google engineers and how many engineers within every single company throughout this world are sitting here going, this is it. This is my side gig. I'm catching the next wave, right? I missed the internet early days. Maybe because I'm too young, or maybe I just missed it because I just didn't see it. We
missed Rich Coin. We missed the crypto piece.
I missed the social media rage. I missed whatever the pendulum swings. There's these massive technical booms. I'm not missing this one. So even if they are still keeping their job, they are definitely starting to work on something.
The side hustle culture is real there. Yeah.
Yeah. And that should be more. That is why I do believe that we are headed toward a AI first is going to win, hands down. I don't know when, but it's definitely not an if. And what I mean by that is everything that we touch and feel today, as far as software, as far as is going to be an AI, is going to be reimagined and rebuilt with an AI first mentality. It's not going to be upgraded. It's not going to be a new version of the same UX. Like I'm on HubSpot and I'm sitting here pulling down menus and adding leads and filling out forms.
It has to evolve or it's going to become extinct.
That is absolutely, exactly. That entire thing is going to be rebuilt using an AI first. And what I mean by AI first is these three things. Number one, that AI is actually not only, because it's not only helping you generate the code, it is the primary generator of the code.
Yeah.
And why is that important? It's not about like skipping step 1, 2, and 3 so that you can build a product faster. Although that is that's a nice output of that conclusion. It's more important that AI building the code because AI is determining the structure of the code. It's determining how the code is built and written. So any enhancements and any new features, it gets because it built it. So imagine like make the human equivalent analogy. Imagine I built most of the software and then I just hired you to come on as a developer. Imagine how hard it would be for you to pick up the ball that I just left you and then to relearn and understand all the code. And then, of course, you'd be like, oh, God, this guy was either, man, it's really hard. It's not well documented. It wasn't done by standards that I learned under, or maybe there's some weird. But my point is like AI is no different. If AI built it, it can enhance it much quicker. Certainly AI can learn legacy code, but I can tell you if it's building, it would be much easier to build it from scratch if you're committing to AI as the core developer. So number two, the reason why AI first, it has to be the case, is because I do believe that we are moving away from the traditional stack of UX, some sort of logic layer, some sort of, design layer from a database perspective, and some sort of database, right? We're moving away from that traditional model, that stack that all of us as developers use, right? And I'm not saying that stack doesn't exist in some sort of faction of this thing, but we're moving more toward from an AI first into a human user interface and or no interface, what I call a Huey Newey world, where it's like human user interface. You like that? Huey Newey?
A Huey Newey world? Actually, I like how you say this is how I call it, and that's the first time I've ever heard you say that.
Merlin right now is registering HueyNewey.com, and he's going to sell it to me for $5,000.
Huey, Newey, and Louie.
Yeah. So Huey, Newey, and the news is what Merlin just.
That
is honestly
that
the
is
best.
A deep cut for a band.
For those who don't know our producer, he's like a wannabe comedian, but every once in a while, he nails it. So Huey, Newey, and the news. But anyway, my point is like the Huey Newey layer, which is kind of replacing the form fill navigation. Mm-hmm. That might exist, but I'm telling you, it's just once humans can talk to something, once it can do it on its own, which is what I mean by no UI, autonomy, Newey, then you're off and running. We don't really need an interface anymore. And then the second layer, that logic layer, turns into more workflow. So what's the difference between logic and workflow? Not much, but when you think of logic in the software world, what you're really thinking of is sequential code, right? And you're calling certain functions and you're kind of going through kind of a process, like do this, if then that. When you get into workflow, it becomes a little bit more dynamic and it's a little more humanistic, right? You're kind of allowing AI to be part of that workflow, and some of those decision making, call it nodes inside of the workflow. If everybody's kind of thinking more like a flow chart, imagine now it not being code, but one of those, areas where it hits a decision point, it actually gets thrown to an AI agent. So an AI agent is making a decision that might not be deterministic. It could be completely based on a variety of factors. It could be based on
that unique engagement that's taking place right
there.
No,
just no different than a human, right? If I said, "Hey Lee, you want to hang out tonight and have dinner?" That's not a determinant. Exactly. No, it's always a no. So actually that's a bad example because it's always no. So it's not really.
We know what's happening.
Maybe someday you'll say yes.
The one time I say yes, right. Let's play it off. Yeah.
So it's not deterministic. It's really based on what you're feeling tonight. Now, if I ask you that same question tomorrow, it could be a different answer. In software, that's not the case. In software, it's the same answer.
It's very rigid and direct. Right. Yeah.
So that's another element of this is that GUI is changing into the Huey Newey. The logic is kind of evolving into workflow. And then the database is still going to live. We're still going to have databases, call it book of record, call it source of truth. We're still going to have to store the core information somewhere, but add another element, which is the large language models, right? The whether it's the large language foundational models or models that we build specifically for our business, those will live as the kind of primary kind of component of this that drives this AI first stack. So that's number two, right? So that's another reason why I think SaaS is going to have to reconsider rebuilding from scratch. I'm on the team start from zero because I just don't think there's a path to taking legacy software and evolving it into an AI, first. At some point you're going to hit that brick wall where you're like,
a lot of clashing going on.
But for obviously it's also very difficult to tell a company that's invested millions and millions of dollars into their software to just throw it away. And I'm not saying that. I'm just saying instead of Band-Aids, instead of trying to plug AI in and embed it somehow into your into the wiring of your software, start building AI separately.
Yeah.
And then start moving over core functionality to eventually, and then basically what you're doing is you're stripping down your SaaS product into a book of record, core database, core function software platform, and you're letting the AI start to own and take over that the interface to your customers.
Give it some equity within the product and see that footprint just start to grow.
And number 3, which is like my closing argument for the reason why AI is going to eat all the SaaS in the world, is nobody likes SaaS. I mean, that's bottom line. I mean, I'll say it. I know.
Just come right out.
I know that most people don't, aren't willing to come out of the closet and say I hate SaaS, but I am one of the first ones to come out and say, like, it is absolutely. I just don't like it. Nobody likes it. There's a reason why. I put it this way. There's a reason why every time I walk into a company, it doesn't matter if it's a multi-billion-dollar company. It doesn't matter if it's a startup. Everybody's on spreadsheets, right? Everything ends up on a spreadsheet. Why? Because these SaaS products just don't work the way that you want to work as an individual and as a person. So like you'd rather have the ability to like move things around, make some quick changes, and then get to the end product, which you have to deliver as a an employee. So sure, I don't mind going into HubSpot and adding customers and adding leads and having some sort of thing. But the reality is nobody likes logging in doing that. No, nobody does. So if you have an AI agent that you can just simply email them and say, "Hey, I just had a great call with these guys. You were on the call, so that you got the whole transcript. Just add a note in the CRM, make them a hot lead, and remind me to call them in 5 days." That will happen, because it's happening today, and that's very human. And then the AI will just put it all in. So then it only becomes only a matter of time where it's like, do I really need to have all this complicated UI, or do I just need to have an AI assistant that does it, right? And then you can and then the AI is going to remind me. It's going to set the appointment. It's going to do all those things for me. I think that's a more realistic path that we're on. That's an event that I think more people would see happening than the opposite, which is somehow these SaaS companies survive all this new cool stuff, and and maybe I'm just the outlier. I'm wrong that everybody loves logging into their, enter a blank SaaS product and, setting up their account and uploading their logo and get super excited about the navigation scheme and
insert corporate B-roll music here.
I can't wait. Yeah. I can't wait to fill out some forms today and, and stare at a screen for 8 hours. And then,
Rich is like, I'm here to live fast and eat SaaS. That's all I want to do.
Exactly.
That's all I want to do.
So, I mean, I could be an outlier, but I think more and more people are going to join Team AI over time. And then, so what does that mean for SaaS companies? What does that mean for companies like ones that we've built and ones that we work with? Is that I think there has to be a very clear directive, a very important first step, which is create a AI team, call it your SEAL Team 6, whatever. Take some of your better minds that are working on your core products, continue to do what you do, continue to sell to your customers, continue to service, and start reimagining what your product could be with an AI first mentality, with an AI agent, with a Huey Newey mindset, with a workflow mindset, and start building it again from AI first mentality, where AI is your primary developer. And then what you'll be able to do is start to see what it means to bring over core functionality. I know there's a lot of companies out there that want to transform code and want to kind of start and take whatever they might have and try to, okay, maybe AI can rewrite this code. And I don't think that's not a bad idea. And certainly it's worth looking at. And I do believe AI could do a lot of that. And maybe that's how it kind of
that's the bridge
finds its way over.
Yeah.
But I do think that you have to still have that reimagining. Don't let the SaaS product that you have today be the hub of your mindset and try to work around it and because it will become an anchor. It'll be an albatross. Create a new anchor around this mindset of AI, and then find ways to kind of transform from one to the other. That I think will get you where you can provide an amazing product complementary product perhaps, because that allows you, if those both can live in the same ecosystem for a period of time, now you're bringing something to your customer that is truly unique, and you rebuild your moat, and you create this an ability for competitors to come in with these products like I just showed today and generate kind of what I would call lightweight competition that would, it's going to nip at your heels. It's not going to be an over, equal feature to feature, but it might get the attention of customers who are, Google eyes about AI. And if you don't have an answer to that question, they're going to get a meeting, I'll put it that way. And that's the last thing you want, is your customer having meetings with companies that have some really cool AI stuff. And they're like, oh, wow, this is really cool. And we're still in this legacy software, but now maybe we could rip it out. I like the idea of no licensing or no seat licensing. I like the idea, like suddenly it becomes a financial / fundamental decision that might push you out. So anyway,
and we had done a podcast a few months back where we talked about like SaaS slowly starting to lose ground to AI powered services. I think, basically what we did today, we should link that to this one, but I think we should maybe take it a step further. And the next time we jump on, we do kind of a part 2 of this. Now that we've talked about behind the scenes and like being AI first, is like looking at some of this shift and like where AI is currently replacing some core SaaS functionality on the front end. So I think that'd be a good topic too.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Awesome.
I think this is a continuation. I mean, I think a lot of the people that we work with, because we came from the vertical software world, and we understand, we have a lot of colleagues in that world. So, my mission here is not to just like say, oh, good luck with your, SaaS is dead. It's more like, hey, we have to turn the alarm on and make it, have the conversation.
Bring attention to it for sure.
Yeah, because I do think, it's easy to say, these kind of big idea things and then just kind of back into it. But it is something that's very different this time around what we're seeing with AI. It's just completely transformative. And before we go, I want to just finish it with, I just want to show you.
Are you going back into your app that you were building?
I just want to, I'm on the lead. I'm going to call this one the Lee stress tester.
Jeez.
So so look at this. How cool is this, right? Now it's running on a database. So now see this. I can build this stuff while I'm talking about it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that just proves my point. I mean, I think when you see things like that, I already know that the next year, 2 years, there's going to be like every single interaction I have with somebody, they're going to be pulling up an AI generated app and pitching me, which is awesome, but at the same time, kind of scary to think.
No, for sure, man. Well,
new world.
That was great, man. And I'll have to download your app now because that is my world. But for everyone else listening or watching, thanks again for joining us on this episode. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button to stay in touch. Also, check out our Substack for more content, which we linked to this episode to continue this discussion. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and we'll see you on the next episode. Take care, everyone.
Welcome to the show where air takes the floor.